If you have an incredible video project in mind, it's very easy to get lost in the creative details and forget about the crucial logistics that are required to actually make it happen. Now, this might not be the most glamorous or exciting YouTube filmmaking tutorial out there, but if you actually want to get your project done and get it finished so people can see it, this is a step-by-step guide on the things you'll need to organise to make your project happen. Having produced documentary content for Netflix, Amazon and the BBC, this has required producing and organising a wide range of shoots, from candid fly-on-the-wall filming right up to stage reenactment with actors. And regardless of the type of project you're producing, there are key fundamentals that are universal across every filming day, and we're going to take a closer look at them in this video. You might be producing a shoot for a client or producing a passion project for yourself. Regardless, you're going to need to know what the overall goal of your filming day is. And if it's for a longer multi-day shoot project, you're going to need to know how this particular shoot day fits into the overall goal of your production. The brief is your first step in deciding all the other details that will be required to produce this production, and the key questions that you need to either ask yourself or ask your client are the intended length of the film or section of film that you're producing, and this will dictate how much footage you'll need to capture on your filming day, the various scenes that need to be captured, and this could be interview or B-roll scenes, and finally when the finished film will be used. This is much more pertinent these days, as with all the various online video platforms, you may be asked to deliver in landscape, portrait or square resolutions, so you need to compose your shots with that in mind. And you can also choose cameras to match the platform. If you're delivering for a high-end streaming platform, you'll likely need to shoot on an appropriate quality camera and possibly on a list of approved cinema cameras. But if you're delivering quick turnaround portrait social content for platforms such as Instagram or TikTok, a small mirrorless camera may be a much more practical choice. You want to work this brief into a concise document that you can send to clients, to cast and to crew, so everyone is on the same page when it comes to the film day. They understand what the project is, what you're trying to achieve, and everyone can work effectively together to achieve that. Now, we're not talking about a +1 here, we're talking about a chosen day that your filming is going to take place on. And in reality, the filming day might not always be the first piece of the puzzle that gets sorted, but once you've got a filming day in mind and that's chosen, you've set yourself a deadline to make everything else happen. And we all know the incredible power of a looming deadline to make things happen and get things done. Organising a shoot requires a lot of liaising between different groups of people, and the first group of people that you want to get your filming date confirmed and sorted with are your talent. That's anyone in front of the camera. Secondly, you want to make sure your chosen location is available on that date, and then thirdly, you can start to look at your filming crew and make sure they're available on your chosen day as well. Talent is key to sort first, and you want to make sure they're locked in and available to film on your chosen date. It's much easier to make changes to the location or members of your film crew than it is to ask the talent to completely change their schedule and arrange filming for a different day. Now, you might just have one person on camera that's going to be your talent during the day, or you might be filming a whole group of people. And you might also be hiring in professional models and actors, or you could be asking favours and getting your friends to appear in your project for you. Regardless of who it is, it's always good to give them as much notice as possible. We all have lives and jobs and responsibilities, and whether you're a friend or a professional model, you're going to want to plan your schedule accordingly and get things sorted in your life to make sure you're free and available to work on that day. So give as much notice as possible as you can to your cast and your talent. Now, if you have planned your shoot very far in advance, it's good to send a little reminder as the shoot date approaches, and this will just help if people potentially have forgotten they've agreed to help and film. They can do some last minute changes and get things sorted so they can keep their schedule free to come and help and get involved in your film project. And when you're working with talent, it's always a good idea to get them to sign a contributor release. A contributor release is a form that says they're happy for you to use the images that you've taken of them in your production. And you could get them to sign a paper copy on the day while they're on the shoot, or you could send out a digital signature request using something like Adobe DocuSign, and you can send that before or after the shoot to get the contributor form signed. And when you're working with big, larger commercial clients, it'll be the expectation that you have a contributor release signed for everyone that's involved in front of the camera. And in our experience, it's always a good idea to get your contributor to sign a release when they're there on set with you. You can talk them through the form, explain what it means, and also get that job done and finished so you're not having to chase them weeks or months later down the line with a digital signature request, hassling them to get it signed so you can release your project. It's always good to get it done while you're there on set, get that job ticked off and done and sorted. And if you've never used a contributor release before, you can find lots of templates for them online. Now, whether you're paying to hire a filming location or whether you're going to try and use somewhere that you can film at for free, there are two very important things that you need to consider. Firstly, getting permission. Now, this is most important when you're filming on private land for paid work, but it's always a good idea, even if you're doing a passion project somewhere that's available to use for free, to reach out to the owner or the manager and just give them a brief overview of what you're planning to do and make them aware of your project. A lot of times, even if you have paid to hire a location or you've agreed beforehand, you'll turn up on site and the person you've spoken to isn't actually the person that has the keys to open the gate and let let you in. So it's really important to speak to a manager, speak to an owner, just have that information to present to the person that you meet when you get to site. Often a lot of times where people are reluctant to let you in and might be a bit unsure about that, you can smooth the process over by getting them to call their manager who's fully aware and green lights you to come in and get filming. That's just a really easy piece of pre-production that you can do beforehand to make sure that your shoot day runs as smoothly as possible. Secondly, getting a location release signed. And again, this is much more relevant for larger commercial work, but it's always a good idea again to get a location release which functions pretty much the same as a contributor release and just says that any footage that you take at the location, the owner or the manager is happy for you to use that in your project. And again, you can find lots of standard templates for location releases online. And finally, for location, ideally before the shoot, you're going to want to chat through with the person that's going to be there on the day managing the location, how many people are coming, how much room you need, what space you'll need, do you need parking, do you need power, how long do you intend to be there for, when do you intend to leave, all those important filming details. And this extra bit of pre-production and communicating with the location manager will just mean that on the day you can focus on getting great content and not be stressing about all the logistics around the location. Now, if you're filming for a client, they've hopefully given you a brief or a general overview of what they're looking to achieve from the day. And if it's a passion project from yourself, it can be a great idea to type up a short document, just writing down what you're looking to achieve from the day as well to make sure it's clear in your mind. And with all this information, it's now your goal as a producer to translate that into a filming plan that's going to make sure you tick off and achieve all the objectives of the day. There's always room for spontaneity and going with the flow in productions, particularly if you're in documentary content, but you're going to want to go into a filming day with a general plan, particularly in terms of timing, what shots you're going to do when, and you're going to want to think about all the logistics involved in that. So time of day, lighting, having to move crew and equipment around. To make a project happen and make it a reality, you need to get all the shots you want on your chosen filming day. You don't sadly have unlimited time, whether it's a big budget production or a small passion project. You'll normally have a short window that you need to get everything done in. So it's great to think this through. Be realistic with what you can achieve on that day. Yes, it's good to be ambitious and try and plan a lot, but think logically, think realistically, and think how much time everything's going to take and plan your filming day accordingly. In the film industry, there's a term called making your day, and that's normally a responsibility of the first assistant director, and that will be to make sure that you're sticking to schedule and getting everything done. If you're lucky to have a first AD on set, that's a real privilege, and you can really get focused on the filming and the creative and let the first AD worry about the schedule. But for most filmmakers, you'll need to be worried about what's going on in front of the camera, making sure you're getting great shots and also that you're sticking to your schedule as well. As a general rule, for any film day, but particularly when we're doing multi-camera interviews with complex lighting setups, I'll make sure to allocate at least an hour for loading in and setting up, and also another hour for packing down and loading out. It's also a good idea to break down the timings for each setup or each scene you want to film and plan these throughout your day. So start with your call time, the time you want to arrive on set. Give yourself time to load in, set up and get ready, and then think about how long each shot or each setup's going to take. And when you're planning the timings for your filming day, it's really good to allocate a little bit of extra time to everything than you think it'll actually take. Even sometimes as much as an extra 15 minutes can be a really useful tool, even for people to have a quick break and grab a drink, or if a shot takes a little bit longer than expected, there's some moving or setting up, that extra buffer of time is really, really useful to have. And if you are ahead of schedule, no one's going to mind an early wrap time, but it can be really difficult to maintain enthusiasm and motivation when your shoot's dragging on much longer than expected. Lastly, a call sheet. A call sheet is an essential pre-production document that's going to answer any logistical questions that anyone might have about the shoot, and you can send out and communicate all the information easily to your cast and your crew ahead of the filming day. Essentials of a call sheet are the location address, shoot timings and individual call times when everyone needs to turn up, contact information for the production team, a rough outline of the day, and also what time you intend to finish. If you're dealing with experienced video professionals ahead of the shoot, you'll often find that they're very confident and very capable to handle any creative challenges that pop up during the film day, so they're not too concerned with the creative specifics. But at this stage, the key information they really want to know is the location address, the call time, and the wrap time. They've got lives and careers that they need to plan, and if they're shooting multiple days in a row, they'll need to figure out travel and where they'll need to be, so this information is crucial to get across to them as early as possible. And it's also a good idea to add more practical information, things like what are the travel or parking details, relevant safety information like where the nearest hospital is, and also a breakdown of who's expected to bring what equipment on the day. And don't forget the crafty, everyone needs to eat and drink throughout a shoot day, so make sure to include important details like where people can get lunch, whether that's on set or a nearby shop, or whether they need to bring food and water with them if you're somewhere remote. It can be quite time consuming to make a call sheet for the first time, but once you've made it once, you can use this as a template for all future productions, and it's also a good checklist to go through and make sure you've thought through all the relevant details for every shoot that you're planning. Now, this was just an overview of some of the most relevant details when you're planning a shoot, and it's by no means exhaustive, but really hope it's a useful tool to help you plan your next production and make your project happen.